Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SEC Boys, an extension of All Boys Media, where we take a look around the SEC through orange tinted glasses. I am your host, Trev, and I am joined by Lev.
What up?
And this is the Trev and Lev Award Show, aka the October Superlatives, where we will be giving out SEC awards to SEC players, teams, and coaches. So without further ado, let's get straight into this one. First up, we have offense, best offense in the SEC. And I gave it to LSU. LSU statistically is the best offense in the SEC, uh, with at 552 yards a game. They're also passing at 339 yards a game, and second in rushing at 213 yards a game. I believe they're also averaging 47 points a game, which is first in the SEC and first in the entire country. When you have one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in the SEC at the helm, as well as a great receiving room, um, you're going to score a lot of points. And also, I'd like to point out the defenses that they've played have not statistically been great either. Um, and honestly, they struggled a little bit earlier in the season with Florida State, who's probably the best defense they've played so far. But we're really going to find out, you know, this Saturday how they stack up against the competition as they play Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I still have been impressed with their offense, though. I mean, you can't argue with the numbers. Um, and in the month of October alone, they defeated Army 62-0 at home. They beat a Auburn team that Georgia struggled with 48 to 18. And then also won their biggest matchup of that month, 49-39 versus Missouri in Columbus, a great Missouri team, uh, who's having a great year so far. So yeah, I've been really impressed with their offense, and I think it's by far the best offense in the SEC. Honorable mention would probably go to Georgia.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Trevor. LSU's my best offense currently. I mean the stats. I mean Trevor went through all of them, so I'm not gonna. I don't have them pulled up either, but so I'm not gonna repeat them. But the stats are pretty telling, showing that they're the best offense. I mean he's Trevor's also right. They haven't played a lot of great defenses, but I think they've played enough. They've had enough good competition to where it shows that they're pretty good offense. I mean, they have those two losses to Florida State and crap, who's the other one? Ole Miss. Florida State and
Hmm.
Ole Miss. And so that's not great. I think that Ole Miss loss is definitely the worst of the two because Florida State is a pretty good team. But overall, though, they've had a pretty good season, and Jaden Daniels is a pretty good year. And so to me, it's pretty easy to tell they're the best offense right now. So I don't want to go too much into it because Trevor hit most of the good points, but yeah, they're also my best offense.
Yeah, and just one more thing to add to that, like you're saying, the Ole Miss, I would say the Ole Miss loss wasn't even on the offense. They scored 49 points. I mean, it was more than enough to win that game.
Yeah,
Obviously, the weakness of their team is their defense and specifically their secondary. But
yeah, I agree.
speaking of defense, my best defense, uh, is going to be Georgia. This Georgia team is first in the SEC in points allowed, allowing just 14.8 points a game. They're also second in the SEC in yards allowed per game at 272.1. I think the weakness of this defense is definitely the defensive line, as in they don't get that much pressure on quarterbacks and statistically aren't great at sacking the quarterback. But I think they have proven that they are almost to the spot that Georgia's defense was last year, and they've been really dominant so far. They're actually seventh in the country in total defense, um, which is first in the SEC. Um, but yeah, I just really think that this Georgia team is going to be carried by their defense and has been carried in their close games by their defense. The offense has really stepped up too. But yeah, for an honorable mention, I'd have to go Alabama.
Yeah. Um, Georgia, they're pretty good defense, and so I'm gonna have to agree with Trevor. Uh, there's other teams in the SEC that have good defenses, but overall, Georgia's had a pretty consistent defense the whole season. They're still undefeated. Um, Part of that's due to the defense. Their offense has been pretty good as the season has progressed. But yeah, I'd just say they're the best defense in the country, or not in the country, in the SEC. Um, but their real test is going to be coming up here in the next few weeks when they play Ole Miss, Missouri, and Tennessee.
Mhm.
And so that's going to be a real test to see how really good their defense is, because you're playing a good offense in Ole Miss, a good offense in Missouri, and maybe not a good or great offense in Tennessee, but you're playing in a tough environment. Uh, Tennessee has been getting slowly getting better offensively, so it's still going to be a pretty good test to see how good the defense really is. And if Georgia wants to win a third national championship, it's going to have to be as good as it's been in the past. But yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Next category we got is the best coach in the SEC, and this one I'm gonna have to give to Kirby Smart. I really think you could argue Georgia's talent is what carries them through, and that he's just a good recruiter. But I think his in-game decision making has been good so far this year, and we haven't seen that a lot through a lot of SEC coaches. Uh, Jimbo Fisher being one of them, but I would say Nick Saban hasn't had some great calls. Josh Heupel has not had some great situational calls. Kirby Smart's put his team in a position to win every single week, and I think he's a great motivator to get him uh, ready for those big games on their schedule. Obviously, they haven't played great to their lesser competition, but they've blown their best competition out of the water. Uh, 51-13 win over a ranked Kentucky team who was ranked at the time, and then a 43-20 win over Florida. Two solid wins considering both those teams now have three losses. I mean, those are the two best teams they play on their schedule, and didn't really give them a chance to win. I think he's one of, if not the main reason for that. I just do think he's a great motivator, and them being at number two in the first college football playoff bowl is going to continue his motivation for his team.
yeah, I
And I think that's why he's my favorite, my best coach in the SEC.
I agree. He's a pretty good motivator. And he
Hmm.
somehow convinced his entire team last year that everyone thought they were going to go 7-5,
Yeah,
which is impressive.
yeah,
But all right, my coach, best coach right now. I'm gonna continue with what I said last month. I'm gonna continue with Eli Drinkowitz. I don't necessarily think his case is as good as last month. I still
mhm,
think it's a pretty good case for him to be the best coach, just because he's still consistently winning. Outside of the LSU loss, they've still won all of their games, and so I'm still pretty impressed with Drinkowitz. I mean, he's got probably his toughest stretch coming up. He's playing at Georgia, which is going to be a really hard game, and if he does win that game, that will probably be his most impressive win as a coach ever. I don't see that happening personally,
yeah,
but yeah, so he's got his biggest test coming up, but he's still, I think, to me, just the way they've been winning, I'm gonna still say that he's the best coach right now. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll keep continuing, and we'll see next month if it's still the same for me. I don't think it will be next month. I mean, I kind of said the same thing last month, but I
yeah.
don't think he'll be my best coach next month. But right now, there wasn't really anyone I thought deserved it more than him. I mean, yeah, I could have gone with Kirby Smart like Trevor, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, they both have a pretty strong case for it. There's not really anyone else other than those two that I would say. But yeah, that's who I'm gonna go with.
Next up, we have Most improved. This could be a player, team, or coach. I decided to go with a team, and that team specifically is LSU. Um, Obviously, the month of September wasn't great for them. I think they finished 3-2. Lost their two biggest games in that month. This month, their competition wasn't amazing, but they were able to just absolutely kill teams, like I said before. Um, and I mean, they still beat now a top 15 Missouri team. They were not top 15 at the time, but in Columbus is pretty impressive. And honestly, what really surprised me the most in that game was the defense is what ended up getting that final stop at the very end, that one stop that they needed, that interception at the end of the game to kind of seal the deal for them. So I think they improved the most record wise, obviously, with, from the month September to October. But I think after that Florida State game, as I mentioned previously, their offense really found their footing,
Hmm.
and they've just continued to get better to build up to this moment going down to Tuscaloosa.
Yep. And this week they've got to win this week.
Yeah,
They're, I
for their
mean,
SEC hopes, they got to win.
they're not gonna get a national championship. Said I don't see anyone getting in with two losses, but if they want to win the SEC, this is their last chance.
Hmm.
So we'll see how they do. I'm worried about their defense, and it's in Tuscaloosa, so we'll see. My most improved, I decided to go with the player, and technically it's supposed to be most improved since last month, but mine's technically going to be starting from the A&M game. In the last two games, so basically here's how I'm going to line this up. The A&M game was probably one of Joe Milton's worst games in a while. I mean, he's had some pretty bad games this year. He's been where he's not been able to do anything good. But after that A&M game, he decided to play really good against Alabama. And I know Tennessee lost that Alabama game, but to me, he looked really good in that game. And the reason they lost that game was not Joe Milton. It was other factors like the defense giving up, the offense not being able to run the ball at all. Um, they didn't really pass the ball too much in the second half. He didn't have a great second half, but I think overall that was still a pretty good game from Joe. And then that carried on into the Kentucky game, where Joe had his best game probably as a Tennessee Vol at all.
Hmm.
The only other game you could maybe argue is better is the Clemson game, and to me, I don't think it's even close. I think the Kentucky game, just the way he was making throws, the way he was managing the offense, it was just a new Joe. And so hopefully he's going to keep continuing to get better because it's looking like he might be getting better and he's hitting his stride at the right time. Well, it would have been better if he hit it earlier when they were playing Alabama or Florida, but he's hitting his stride at a pivotal time to where you're playing Missouri and Georgia, who are the only two teams in the SEC aside from technically Florida, but Florida's going to lose another game, so they're not technic. They are still in contention for the SEC, but I don't think they are. So you're going up against Missouri and Georgia, who are the two teams who you're basically going against for the SEC. And if you can beat them, Georgia still has to lose another game on top of losing to us. But this is the real test. If you can beat those two teams, you're gonna end the season strong, and it's gonna end up being a pretty good season. So I just hope that Joe can improve a little bit more. But to me, he's the most improved player since the A&M game, but not technically since September. But
Yeah,
that's
I've been really impressed with him for sure. I think he's definitely deserving of that award.
yeah.
Next up, we have the most disappointing. Uh, and I ended up going with two teams here because I couldn't really decide. So I went with Kentucky and Arkansas, two teams that went 0-3 in the month of October, and also two teams um, who, well, Kentucky kind of fell off a cliff after starting 5-0, ending uh the month of October finishing 5-3. Arkansas just is irrelevant at this point, but I'll get to them in a minute. I think Kentucky, uh, after you destroyed that Florida team, won by 19 points. But that game was not really close at all. Um, and then you just continue to get worse, right? You lose uh that Georgia game 51-13, lose at home to Missouri 38-21, and then lose at home again off of a bye week to Tennessee 33-27. Obviously, that's a tough stretch of games right there, but I think as a Kentucky, I think I'm not personally a Kentucky fan, but I think Kentucky fans, their fan base is going to look at that schedule and be like, we should have won one of those games out of the three at least, right?
Yeah.
And you get two of them at home. I mean, that is a tough stretch of games for any SEC team, but I think the expectation at Kentucky for some reason is so high, because Mark Stoops has got him to 10 wins before. Um, and I feel like their expectation is really high, and I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves at the end of the season. Iowa might have a job opening. Michigan State has a job opening. Both those teams, I wouldn't be surprised, would offer him a job. I think he is an Iowa alum as well. I could be wrong about that, but
I don't know.
um,
I don't know if I see that happening just because he's getting paid so much. And while
I don't know. I think they might
Kentucky's,
run him out of the off of the team,
I
honestly.
don't know, their expectations are high, but you see a lot of Kentucky fans of after that Tennessee loss, it kind of humbled a lot of them. So I don't know. You could be right, but he's getting paid so much. The only way he's getting run out of there is by the fans. He's not leaving there on his own
I
volition.
think there's better opportunities somewhere else, though. I think I mean, the Big Ten's going to get harder, right? But I think there's better opportunities. Iowa is, I would say it's a bigger brand than Kentucky. Michigan State's by far a bigger brand than Kentucky. And
Yeah,
I think those teams would be willing to pay him more than he's making at Kentucky. But
that's
that's kind of
fair.
besides the point. I don't know. They just have a very disappointing month. Had the bye week, still couldn't get it done. Arkansas, um, man, the team that loses one score games uh to and makes games competitive against teams that they shouldn't win, or against and in games they shouldn't win, right? Lost to Ole Miss, lost to Bama back-to-back weeks by a total of 10 points. Then scored 3 points against Mississippi State, only lose by 4. That's a total of 14 points and 3 losses. Um, it's rough. It's rough for their fan base. They by far the most disappointing team in October, and by the end of the season, we're either looking at them or Mississippi State as the most disappointing team in all of the SEC.
Yep.
I'll let you carry it on to the next one.
So my most disappointing team is also Arkansas. I mean, golly, they just cannot find a way to win. And good teams find ways to win. And Arkansas, that's why Arkansas is not a good team. Yeah, they've kept it close with some good teams like Alabama and Ole Miss, but like you've got to be able to capitalize, especially if you're that close, and they just can't. And so it's just, if I was an Arkansas fan, it would just be like it's just out of reach, and it would be just so disappointing. Like I'd be so deflated. We actually know an Arkansas fan, and he's just like kind of given up on watching them this season. So it just sucks for them. And I don't know. I think they're gonna move on from Sam Pittman soon,
Hmm.
unless he's got a something miracle's gonna happen. But I they don't even play anyone really the rest of the season. So it's like even if they do win some games going forward, it's not like and their season's still a dumpster. Like they there's not much they can
Yeah,
do. I mean, they play Florida at Florida. I'm not sure.
I'm seeing one more. Here, I got the schedule pulled
I
up
don't
right
have the
quick.
schedule, so I don't. Yeah, you bring it up. Tell
So
me.
we got Florida at Florida. They're at home against Auburn, at home against FIU, and at home against Missouri.
Yeah,
Um,
So
I think
that's
they
like
won one of those games. I think
FIU.
Auburn's better than them. So I think they won one of those games. That's it.
FIU seems like the only win there,
Yeah.
unless they. I don't know.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I
they could
just
beat Auburn. I don't think that they're going to beat Florida, and I don't think that they're going to beat Missouri either. So
yeah
I think the only two games they have a chance of winning the rest of the schedule is Auburn and FIU. And even then, you finish 4-8 or at worst 3-9.
yeah.
That.
And
I mean, what were the expectations before the season? Probably at least a bowl game, right? I mean,
yeah, and best case scenario, even if they somehow run the table, is only 6 wins,
yeah,
which is still
yeah,
not great. I mean,
yeah.
that would, don't get me wrong though, if they won out, that'd be a miracle and very impressive. But like even then, it's still a disappointing season that leaves a sour taste in Arkansas fans' mouths.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean Kentucky too. To Trevor's point, also very disappointing. I didn't even really think about bringing them up, but you look at their schedule, they're 5-0 going into
Hmm.
their first 5 games, and then they just fall, the bottom falls off of them. But to be fair, they play four bad teams in a row, and then
Yeah.
play a overrated Florida team, and everyone's like, "Oh, Kentucky's so good." But in reality, if you actually watched the games before that Florida game, you can tell that they weren't very dominant. They just looked so dominant against Florida because their defense was able to shut down Florida, and Ray Davis had his a career game.
Right.
And as Tennessee shows you, you shut down Ray Davis, you can even let you can even let Devin literally throw all over you, like he's not been doing this whole season,
Yeah.
and you're still gonna win the game.
Yeah.
Ray Davis is the key to them winning, and Tennessee just showed you all you got to do is just try and shut him down, and you'll be fine. You could
Yeah.
literally just not even play coverage pretty much, and you'll still be fine. Like I mean, that's kind of over going overboard with describing how Tennessee played in the secondary, but still, my point stands. Devin Leary had his best game in probably forever, and Tennessee still won. So that
Yeah.
tells you all you need to know
So
about
yeah, I
Kentucky.
think I just think I'll just make one last point, but uh, I think the most disappointing part for Kentucky is just like they wouldn't be my most disappointing team if they weren't undefeated in the month of September, right?
Yeah,
To go from undefeated to losing, from going 5-0 September to going
five
0
and
3
three.
in October,
Yeah.
that's just rough.
Yep.
No matter who they play. But all right, next up we got most overrated, and mine might be a little bit controversial, but I'm gonna go with it. It's gonna be Brady Cook from Missouri,
Dude, the pizza man.
the Pizza Man.
This
um,
image.
I okay. So statistically, he's not great in the SEC right now either. I think he's got a really good wide receiver room. Their offense is top 3 or 4 in the SEC, I'd say. Um, I'd say you got LSU, Georgia, Ole Miss, Bama, or Missouri probably is where you got or where you're at. But I think with a better quarterback, this Missouri team is undefeated right now and has a great shot to beat Georgia. I think he's an okay quarterback. I don't think he's anything special.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got an NFL future. Um, I think he has done well for Missouri, right? But I think if you have a guy like, you know, Carson Beck, Jaden Daniels, you got one of those guys in that offense, and this is an LSU type offense, right?
Yeah.
And obviously those guys are a really elite quarterback. I think Carson Beck, Jaden Daniels, elite quarterbacks. I just think he's overrated from the standpoint of when you think of, I think of Missouri's offense and I think of Luther Burden. I think he's leading the SEC in receiving yards right now. He's a 5-star guy. Um, and they've had great receivers in the past couple years. They even had a guy transfer to Georgia, obviously, that's starting there. Um, I don't know. He might not be specifically overrated because I don't know if a lot of people are talking about him like that. But I just want to bring him up as in Missouri's success is not, I don't think it's because of him. and I think you can say that for other players, um,
Yeah. Like
uh,
LSU,
on better
I mean, there's
teams.
other pieces to LSU's offense,
But it's Jaden
but
Daniels, right?
the
Like, I
yeah
mean, that's the guy
the
you
number
think of.
one reason is Jaden Daniels why they're
Right.
good. I mean, they have good receivers, and I
They
think
do. Yeah, they have
some
good
people
receivers.
one of their receivers actually is in the odds for the Heisman. Funny enough, but
Is it Neighbors? Neighbors.
I guess, but still, he's their best part of their offense. But when you think of Missouri, Burden
Yeah,
is
Burden's
the first
the
thing you think
best,
of.
far and away the best guy. And that's why I think this week against Georgia, um, if you double team Burden, who's that gonna leave, right? Brady
Yeah.
Cook. I don't know. It just seems like he hasn't been like in big moments in his career where he's had to step up and make plays, I feel
Well,
like. And
one
in that LSU game, he threw 2 interceptions.
one thing I want to bring up is apparently I was on Twitter. I don't have the statistic or anything pulled up, but I saw something where he's last in the SEC when pressured.
Mm. So there you go.
So
I
to
mean,
me, that tells me that his offensive line's probably pretty good, and
yeah.
that the few times though when they do let somebody through, he's not very good. So to me, the key to beating Missouri's offense is getting to the quarterback and pressuring
Mhm.
him as
He's not extremely
fast as you
mobile
can.
either. So
No, I mean he's not
he's not like I
incapable of
don't
it.
think he's like yeah. He's not like static in the pocket like I think Joe Milton is sometimes. Not
Yeah.
all the time. He's been better about it recently, but yeah, I don't know. I just think if you put a better quarterback in there, even put like a Jackson Dart in there, like somebody that's just a step or two above him,
Hmm.
you're looking at a team that's probably undefeated right now. Because like I said, he threw 2 interceptions in the LSU game. That last interception was straight to a linebacker. It wasn't even like contested, and
Yeah.
that lost them the game. So I don't know. I think in big moments under pressure, he's overrated. He's just not a guy that's going to win you an SEC championship or potentially even win this Georgia game
Yeah.
upcoming.
All right. My most overrated team is gonna have to go to Ole Miss. And don't get me wrong, Ole Miss is a pretty good team, and they're definitely one of the better teams in the SEC. But like, I don't know. I
Man,
don't
who
think
have they
they're
played besides LSU, man?
yeah, I just don't think they're as good as a team as people think. It's just because they haven't played anyone, and they've played Alabama and LSU, and that's about it.
Hmm.
And they lost one of those and won one, and that LSU game was barely a win. They
It was at home.
yeah. So to me, they're the most overrated team in the SEC. Not to say they're bad. I mean, they're not going to beat Georgia, but they've had a pretty good season. So we'll see. We'll see going forward, but that's who I'd say is the most overrated team, personally.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. They're pretty overrated, and I think that's a pretty popular opinion. I've seen a lot of people say that. I mean, based on their schedule and their performance in that schedule too.
Yeah, and just Lane Kiffin, he just he cannot win the biggest game. Like
No, I
he's
can't.
been a good coach for Ole Miss, and I don't think they should fire him ever. But he's not gonna win them a national championship or anything or SEC championship. He's gonna consistently get them to 8 or 9 wins, maybe a 10-win season here and there, and that's about it. He's never gonna beat Alabama while Nick Saban's there. I mean, that's just that's just the truth of the matter. I mean, he's never gonna beat the teams that he shouldn't beat. He's just gonna win. I mean, yeah, he's gonna lose to
Yeah.
Georgia. They're not
Yeah,
beating Georgia.
and they've got a potential to go 10-2 this year, which is really good. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, he talks so much crap, but he can never win the big game. So
Well,
at least against Bama.
the funny thing is they've not played anyone, and they're already through their toughest stretch of the schedule other than
Yeah.
Georgia too. So it's
Yeah.
like they're still gonna end the season highly rated and with very few losses, but
Yeah.
they're still gonna be overrated. But yeah, that's my overrated team.
All right, so next up we have the best game. This is a new category we didn't do in the month of September. Best game of October. SEC wise. I went with Tennessee and Kentucky. This game was played just last weekend. I don't know. 7 o'clock kick. This is Kentucky's biggest game every season. Coming off the bye week, a rivalry matchup. You knew this was going to be a close game going in. I think it was exciting to watch, scary to watch as a Tennessee fan, but exciting to watch overall. You got Tennessee's defense who can't stop Devin Leary, who's having the game of his freaking life, at least at Kentucky. You got Dylan Sampson, Jalen Wright, Jabari Small running all over the Wildcats. It really did come down to at the ball last, and Tennessee was able to milk the clock out at the end. And I don't know, it was super back and forth. Not many adjustments were made at halftime for either team defensively. The scoring did slow down in the second half, but it's one I feel like it came down to the wire, and I feel like it was a fun game to watch. And obviously, I think there were some other great games in the month of October, but
Yeah,
this one had it for me. It might be recency bias, but and the fact that I'm a Tennessee fan, but I don't know. It's fun to watch. It's always fun to beat Kentucky. Um, they hate us so much, and we just don't really care about them.
yeah.
And ironically, my favorite part of the whole game is the very end when they fake an injury and run out the clock because of that 10-second runoff. We were able to just run out the clock and win the game.
Bunch of
It was pretty
dummies.
awesome.
Bunch
It's
of
pretty awesome.
dummies. Bunch of dummies. How do you do that? You gotta know the
Uh,
rules, man. You don't.
yeah.
It's so
I don't think
funny.
that was on Stoops. I think
They would
that
have
was a
still lost the
player, but
game.
they
They
still
would.
would have lost.
They
But
weren't
there, I
gonna
mean, there's
win
a
that
chance
game.
for a block field goal and a touchdown.
Yeah, I
There's a
mean,
slight chance, but yeah,
yeah,
that
but
that that completely ended the game. So
yeah.
I think it was a fun game to watch.
It was a good game. Um, as a Tennessee fan, it was made me nervous. I really do not want to lose to Kentucky.
Nah, hey,
Like,
losing to Kentucky.
that's if you're a Tennessee fan, you know that's the game. And it's not even because it's like it's people are like, oh, it's your Super Bowl. It's not our Super Bowl. It's just like Kentucky fans are trying to make it like Tennessee has to beat Tennessee because they really care about the game. It's more so Tennessee has to beat Tennessee because it's embarrassing to lose to Kentucky.
Yeah, it's just embarrassing every time we
Like
do it.
every time we do it, we fire our coach. We've lost y'all 3 times in the last 39 years. Like it's not because we freaking think you're good. It's because we're freaking embarrassed if we lose to you.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was also funny the freaking Kentucky players stand in front of the tunnel Tennessee players are coming out of before the game for some reason,
yeah.
taunting our players and shoulder checking some of them. And then some Kentucky fans on Twitter were trying to say, "Oh, it's Tennessee's fault." Like what?
You can watch the video. They just actually go
You
out and stand in front
no,
of
but
us
you know
on.
what their defense was? They're like, the Kentucky players were over there to pray in the corner, bro, bro. There's other corners, first of all. Like, why are you going to the corner that the other team is coming out of? Like, there's another end zone. There's another corner of that end zone you're on that you don't have. It's just that argument makes no sense. But yeah, I'll get into my best game. My best game is gonna have to be Kentucky or Florida, South Carolina. I don't know why, but it's like Kentucky, Florida, South Carolina. I mean this is a good game. Cocktober in Florida or in South Carolina. I'm having a lot of misspeaking right now. In South Carolina, so South Carolina had a pretty good control of the game for most of the game, but then Florida comes back and wins it in the end. As you can tell by the score, I mean, 41-39, pretty high scoring game. South Carolina, though, after this game, it's just pretty much their season was done. There's nothing they're gonna do from here on out. I mean, they're 2-6, right?
Yeah,
2-6.
and they could lose to Jacksonville State this upcoming weekend.
They could. I don't see that happening. I don't think they're that bad. Um,
They're a good group of five team though,
they are, but I
and they're
just don't.
brand new.
I don't think South Carolina's that bad. I don't think they're. I think they're bad. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're that bad.
That's fair.
This was really
I
the
just
game
want them
they.
to lose.
This was really the game South Carolina needed to win to get a moral victory for this season, but they couldn't get it out. They choked it. I mean, Graham Mertz had a really good game. I actually didn't get to watch this game, sadly, because I was at the Tennessee Texas A&M game. Right, that was the
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
at the A&M game, so I didn't get to watch this one. But to me, it was hard for me to decide on the best game. The Kentucky Tennessee one was a good one.
Missouri LSU was also good.
Missouri LSU was also a really good one. But
But yeah, no, I
this is
agree.
the
This
one
one was a good one.
this is the one
Sorry, go ahead.
I decided on just because I don't know.
The stakes were high in this one. I
Yeah,
mean, considering the game, but I feel like it was a must win for both teams. And I did watch some of this game because I was around Florida fans because my wife's family's Florida fans. But yeah, it was a good game. It was really back and forth, really high scoring. I mean,
yeah,
neither defense could stop the opposing team's offense. It
yeah.
was a fun game.
Good
So,
game. Good game. All right.
all right. So our next award is going to go to the best team. This one's super duper easy. Until they lose, and even if they lose, Georgia is the best team in the SEC. Um, we've kind of talked about them a lot, so I'm not going to really talk about them too much.
Yeah.
Uh, one of the best offenses, the best defense in the SEC. Interested. I will say I'm interested to see how they perform the next three games in a row. It'll be really interesting. But I expect them to probably win all three games, but you never know. So
Yep.
definitely the best team in the SEC though.
Yep. I'm gonna have to agree with Trevor. They're my best team. I mean, they're the only undefeated team in the SEC. They're the only undefeated team in the SEC. But I mean, they haven't played too many great teams this year. But I mean, you can't really pick anyone else. So they're the best
Yeah,
team. Don't need to
and I mean
linger on it too much.
October was their hardest month so far. November will be their hardest month overall, but
Yeah, and they've gotten better too. I mean,
they have,
when
yeah,
they play the better teams, they've shown that they can be dominant.
yeah.
So we'll see. I really hope they don't win another national championship, but they the way everyone's playing this year, they definitely could. Do I think they
Yeah,
will? Honestly, I don't. I don't think Georgia's gonna win it all again this year, but we'll see. We'll see. We can move on though, because I don't think we need to talk too much about it.
it is dumpster fire time. I'm excited about this segment, this award. It's probably my favorite award that we give out. And I have two nominees again, as I did last month. I have Shane Beamer, the two-time dumpster fire champ, and also Sam Pittman as a new addition. Shane Beamer, congratulations. 2 months in a row, back to back, defending champ is pretty impressive. Another terrible month for South Carolina.
I wish these two teams played
it would
so we could see
it would be
who's
the dumpster
worse.
fire bowl.
I
It'll be
know.
awesome.
To be
It's
fair
so
though, South
cool.
Carolina has played a common opponent in Mississippi State and did win. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
both teams are probably gonna finish 3-9 or 4-8, so that's pretty cool.
Yep.
South Carolina's remaining schedule is looking like they're gonna win 4 games. They've got Jacksonville State, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, South Carolina, or Kentucky and Clemson, and I think we already went over Arkansas schedule, um, remaining schedule. But yeah, I want quickly. I mean, it's pretty obviously by both of these guys are dumpster fire, right?
Yeah.
High expectations coming into the season. Okay seasons last year. South Carolina had a better season. Arkansas was okay. I think they finished 7-6. Shane Beamer, I don't know. He can recruit somehow, but uh coaching wise, I don't know. Terrible offensive line. I feel like he just also a bunch of guys transferred last year, mysteriously transferred last year.
Mhm.
Out, right? You got Marshawn Lloyd at USC now, the tight end. I don't remember what his name is. He's at Florida State.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something's going on there. I feel like he's gonna stay for a while. I think his job's safe. I think.
Dude, he got
I
roasted
think
by his son. Did you see that?
I saw that. Yeah, I
Dude,
saw that. His son called him out saying he needs to stay at work instead of going trick or treating or something because his team's 2-6.
and why would he
And he
freaking
also broke his foot kicking something after a game. So he's a clown,
why
basically.
why would he tell the people that though? That's like
I don't
so
know.
embarrassing. Like
I don't know.
your son's roasting you. Your son's like,
Yeah.
"Dad, you're about to get fired. We don't want to be around you because you're about to get fired."
Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's
And
hilarious.
you know what? I really dislike Shane Beamer. I have nothing against Sam Pittman. I think he's just a bad coach. I'm gonna go over some statistics about Sam Pittman real quick before I move on. Just know both these coaches are terrible so far this season. Both deserve to get fired. Don't think Shane Beamer will. Overall record for Sam Pittman at Arkansas in his 4-year tenure thus far. Obviously, the season hasn't ended yet. He's 21 and 23. That's not horrible. He's almost 500. I don't know. I like looking at that from an outside perspective. Not great, but not really fire worthy. I'd say. But if you look at this, 2020, his first season, he went 3-7. 2021, he goes 9-4. Okay. Uh, their highest AP ranking was 8. 2022, their highest AP ranking was 10. Their preseason ranking was 19, but they finished 7-6. So he has one good season on his resume. Then of course this year they're 2-6 and probably going to finish 3-9 if I had to assume.
Yep.
Um I don't know what he's done to stay at Arkansas. I don't know why they would keep him. He's not a great recruiter. I think he might have had KJ Jefferson this whole time. I think he had Felipe Frank that 9-4 year, pretty sure, because I think they
Yeah,
beat
that sounds
Tennessee.
right.
Or maybe the 2020 year. But he's had KJ Jefferson like the whole time, and he's the best player on Arkansas by far. So I just don't see any reason for them to keep him. Obviously, Arkansas is not a school that's going to win a lot of games ever, but I think the expectation's probably a little bit higher, especially since you're in the SEC.
Yep. I think I agree. And as you'll see, um, Sam Pittman's also my dumpster fire. Trevor points it out. I mean, there really hasn't been that much success under him other than the one good season, and it's seeming like that was all fluke. Um, I don't see why Arkansas should keep him. I mean, he's a nice guy, but he's not going to get it done. He's an O-line coach, and that's what he's meant to do. He tried out being a head coach, and it's just not going to work out. He'll get hired somewhere as an O-line coach or an offensive coach, and he'll do fine. But he just he shouldn't be coaching anymore as a head coach. And I'm gonna have to agree with Trevor too. Honestly, if I would have been thinking about it, I would have also said Shane Beamer for dumpster fire because just only winning 2 games is embarrassing through 8 games. It's just embarrassing. You don't want that. Tennessee fans, there was like some post uh, that I saw where it was like going through all of the records through 8 games the last 20 years. I mean, Tennessee fans had some bad records through there, like 3-5, 4-4, stuff like that. But I really didn't see that many 2-6s. And Tennessee's been bad the last 20 years. So like when you go 2-6 through 8 games, it's pretty embarrassing because you probably most of the time you're playing at least three bad teams in those 8 games. So you should win at least three. And so it says a lot about a team if they can't win more than 2 games through their first 8 games. So it's pretty embarrassing that
Yeah,
both Shane Beamer and Sam Pittman just cannot win.
and guess what? Shane Beamer's 17-17 in South Carolina. He is
Oof.
average, and he's 8-14 in the SEC.
And he got bailed out. by beating
And I'm
Jet.
pretty sure this. Sorry to interrupt you, but this record is before this season. I'm pretty positive. But
Yeah,
anyways, go ahead.
so it's worse now. He got bailed out last season by saving his season by beating Tennessee and Clemson, and before that, he was not having a good season. I think if he doesn't
Yeah,
win those two games, he's already fired,
yeah.
personally. But
It's kind of insane that they just gave him a huge raise at the end of last season. Now he just stinks real bad. And
hey,
who's going to be their quarterback next year? Like that's their saving grace right now, right? Like,
who knows? Maybe an assistant coach like they had like a year or two ago. Their backup quarterback was an assistant coach or something.
yeah.
Maybe Shane Beamer will come in and play.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I have a weird feeling they're not going to fire him. It's just I don't know. It's just weird, but it's good
Yeah,
for us and everyone else in the SEC. So they don't have to deal with him. So
yeah. I honestly hope they keep him. He sucks.
yeah, he's a clown. So
All right.
all right, MVP to end it off. Yeah, I think this one is extremely obvious. He was also my September MVP, Jaden Daniels of LSU. Um, in my opinion, he should be in consideration for the Heisman. He's had that kind of season. I saw something the other day on another podcast actually, where someone said that his statistics this year so far are very easily compared to Joe Burrow's statistics in 2019. And he's on pace to match those almost exactly. So I mean, I think he's the best player in the SEC. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think he should be considered to win the Heisman. Through the past three games, all three games, obviously we're in October. He has completed 9 touchdown passes to 1 interception. He threw for 279 yards against Army, 325 against Auburn, and 259 against Missouri. He's just been really dominant. I mean, any team would be lucky to have him, and he's really improved overall in his career, and he's gonna lead him to some more wins, I think.
Yep.
But that's my MVP.
Yeah. It's kind of funny thinking back to last month when I said uh Spencer Rattler was the MVP. And I mean I had good reasons for it,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he had a great month.
but I mean it's obvious and it probably was obvious last month, but I didn't watch enough LSU football to know. Jaden Daniels is the best player in the SEC right now. It's not even close. He's really the only SEC player that's really in contention for a Heisman because Georgia doesn't really have any Heisman
Carson
contender
Beck.
players. I don't see Carson Beck even coming close. I mean,
I mean,
he's had a pretty good season,
his
but
stats are almost as good as Jaden Daniels are. But
yeah, but I mean, I don't. We'll
no, I
see,
agree with
but
you. I agree with you. Yeah, I
I
agree
think
with you.
Jaden Daniels actually has a pretty good case for being Heisman. If the Heisman actually becomes what it should be, where it's not the best player on the best team, it's the best
The best
player
player in the
in
country.
college football.
Yeah.
So if we do it like that, like it should be, then he should at least be in the top three or up there.
And
But
we're really going to see this weekend, I think.
yeah,
You know,
this is the
this
biggest
is his
test.
Heisman moment
Alabama
for him.
need to beat
Yeah.
Alabama. But yep, that's it. That's my MVP. Not too much to say. Trevor went into all the statistics and stuff, but yeah.
So with that, that's going to wrap up our October superlatives. Thank you all for tuning in, listening to this episode. Another great one, another fun one to do. Be sure to tune into some more stuff. I'm sure we'll have some more stuff. We're definitely going to have a November superlative. Hopefully, we'll have some more new content for you, maybe some more stocks, some more buying and selling and stuff. But yeah, be sure to subscribe, leave a thumbs up on the video, share this thing out. It would mean a lot to us. Thank you all for tuning in once again. Uh, and go Vols and go SEC.
Go Vols, go SEC. Dude, SEC. SEC.
SEC.
All right.
SEC. All
See
right.
y'all.